The following program does not offer personal medical advice. Please consult your doctor before using any treatment or product we cover. Welcome to Go to Health Media with your host, Jonathan Marks. We provide a welcoming environment where experts educate you on important health topics, answer your questions, and provide information from which you can benefit in consultation with your doctor. You can visit and subscribe to the show at gotohealthmedia.com. And now, here is Jonathan Marks. Hey everyone, this is Jonathan Marks. Welcome back to Go to Health Media. This show today is for you overthinkers, overachievers, people pleasers, and perfectionists. In other words, those of you who are probably too focused on everyone else and not enough on yourself and what's best for you. With this focus on everyone else, your stress level may be through the roof and your nervous system in overdrive. A number of folks just like you can suffer from chronic headaches, muscle tension, digestive issues, insomnia, and high levels of anxiety. If this sounds like you or someone you know, stay tuned because our guest today has written a book just for you called The OverThinker's Guide to Joy, a handbook for overachievers, people pleasers, and perfectionists. Her motto is, and I love this, you're not broken, you're not too old, and it's never too late to start living the life you want instead of just surviving the one you have. Jackie deCrinis is a life coach who specializes in helping overthinkers, people pleasers, and perfectionists overcome anxiety, boost productivity, and find genuine happiness. Before transitioning to coaching, Jackie had a distinguished 30-year career in the television industry, serving as an executive at NBC Universal, ABC, 20th Century Fox, and Sony Television. She played a pivotal role in developing and overseeing numerous Emmy and Golden Globe winning series. Today, Jackie combines her coaching expertise with her passion for personal growth as the host of the OverThinker's Guide to Joy podcast and the author of the OverThinker's Guide to Joy, a handbook for overachievers, people pleasers, and perfectionists. We've created a special link where you can reach Jackie. I've made it. It's called bit.ly/Jackie for Joy. If you go to bit.ly/Jackie for Joy, you'll go to her website, which is JackieDeCrinis.com. And from there, you can learn more about her and also buy her book. Welcome to the show, Jackie. How are you today?
I'm good, Jonathan. Thank you for having me.
Good. So let's talk about your background as a television executive and the kind of high-pressure life you went through, what it did to you and your psyche and your body. Let's talk a little bit about that so we understand what motivated you to go into coaching.
That's a great question. I actually started, and I write a little bit about this in the book. My goal was to be a doctor. So that was the initial goal in college. And I ended up not going to medical school kind of in the 11th hour. And I basically fell into a television career. I grew up in Los Angeles. Hollywood is in our backyard. As my husband says, my wife went to work at the local factory
Right.
making TV and movies.
Yes.
So I sort of fell into the television business. And I think probably by nature, I'm highly competitive and I want to be, the best at whatever I do. And so when I was hired as a production assistant or secretary, I wanted to be the best version of that. And that led to a promotion. And before I knew it, I was on my way in the executive ranks of TV. And 30 some years later, I looked up and I'm like, I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't really the intention.
Yeah. What was that life like being at the top of your TV production
Um,
career?
the top has more luxuries than the bottom, but it's all the same stress. So whether you're getting coffee or walking the dog for your boss as a low-level secretary production assistant, or whether you're executive vice president with the corner office, the stress is the same. Television, like so many other industries, you eat, breathe, and sleep it. And I know that's true of politics. I know that's true of law. I know that's true of medicine, a lot of sales jobs. I'm not the only industry that was true for. But what I realized was that I was consumed by my job and again, that sort of competitive nature, that, type A personality. I really was just existing to work and raise a family, which a lot of people do, but I had no self-care routine and I had no
Hmm.
self-care awareness. So my body was basically detached from my head.
Hmm.
And so my body was riddled with, as you said, muscle spasms and digestive issues and headaches and all the things. And my head was just always buzzing with, I have deadlines, I have deadlines, I have deadlines every
Hmm.
day.
Hmm. And what helped you break out of that or change your life?
A bunch of different things. I married a man, my second husband was like, I think your job is going to kill you. And I was like, well, this is the job I have. I don't
Hmm.
really know how to
Hmm.
leave it.
Hmm.
So he was very interested for his own self-preservation in when we got married to sort of craft a different life. And what I mean by that was he had a vision of living outside of Los Angeles, maybe leaving the industry. He wasn't a television executive, so he was in finance.
Hmm.
But he was like, I want you to think differently. Like, could you do something else? And so I was sort of challenged by that challenge, if you will. What else could I do? And I was always interested in psychology and physiology and medicine and alternative medicine. And I thought, well, I really would like to get back to what I initially wanted to do, which was help people. And so I worked towards that. So I basically raced to my retirement, if you will. And I did that in every way you do that. I did that by trying to get to the top as quickly as I could, by saving as much money as I could. We chose to move to Maui as a sort of a pre-retirement plan 15 years ago. I
Hmm.
telecommuted for many years, still as a television executive. And then I basically gave myself an expiration date where I wanted to stop and then find out what the next chapter was of my life.
So you just brought up a key point, and I want to ask you about this. You moved to Maui. Did that reduce your stress?
No, not at all.
Tell us
Um,
about that because I think that's a really important point. You'd think that Maui would be just so,
There's a famous line, and people have said it, philosophers have said it, Zen Buddha experts have said it, and then there was a line in a movie called RoboCop where he said, "No matter where you go, there you are."
yes.
And that's what Maui was. So when I moved here as a television executive, all I was doing was looking out at palm trees, but still having the same level of stress and demand and deadline. And so I was kind of living in paradise, but I wasn't existing in it. I was like locked in my air conditioned, home bedroom where my office was. And
Right.
I couldn't get out and like walk along the beach or do anything because I was still working a 60-hour work week.
Hmm.
And I was adhering to deadlines all over the world wherever we were producing TV shows.
Hmm.
So I sort of felt trapped in paradise and trapped in my own, by the way, my own making, because all of those things were choice. And I thought, okay, so moving doesn't solve your problem. It
Right.
may be a prettier location, but you have to kind of solve your problems from within. And that's sort of what the book is about, which is the self care, the slowing down, and the focusing on your mind, body, spirit
Hmm.
is how you get out of your crisis of busyness or your crisis of perpetual anxiety because it's addictive. It's
Hmm.
addictive to be an adrenaline junkie.
Yes. Yes.
And for some people that works and that's great. But for me, my body was telling me this isn't working. That's why you always have a headache and a stomach ache and a neck ache and a this and a that.
Right. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what's in the book, those self-care elements?
So the principal acronym that I created is called HOME. And that is basically a checklist of things that people should be doing. It's certainly something I do every day, where before you label yourself as, oh, I'm so depressed or I'm so anxious, check in with your home. And home is spelled out as H is for hydration, O is for observe your levels, which just means, do I need to eat? Do I need to sleep or
Hmm.
rest? M is for meditation and E is for exercise. And so the idea is that before you give yourself this self-imposed label of either being too amped up or too sad to get off your couch, check in with these 4 or 5 things to see, have you given your body and your mind what it needs today?
Hmm.
So it might be a 10-minute nap. It might be a 5-minute meditation. It may be as simple as a glass of water. because dehydration can present as depression.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that people who are diagnosed with depression are dehydrated. Let me be
Right.
very clear. It doesn't go
Right,
the
right.
other direction. It's just that when your electrical system is off and you're dehydrated, you can feel lethargic
Mm-hmm.
or anxious.
Got it. So it's really checking in with yourself each day. I have a question. Do you think you could still do this executive producing job and be in a good space, or is it just impossible if you're in that kind of high pressure job?
It's a great question. I think that there is a balance. Believe it or not, I believe the pandemic probably helped a little bit in a weird way, which is working remotely or on a hybrid capacity, people sort of slowing down a little bit and taking stock, like spending more time with their children or their pets or their partners.
Mm-hmm.
I think it showed the world that, well, particularly Americans, that we were workaholics and we still are, but the importance of work-life balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think I've been out of corporate culture for 8 years now, but I believe there is a little bit more of an awareness towards that philosophy, that it is important to get out of the office. It is important to get exercise and fresh air. It is important to stay hydrated and eat well.
Right.
Is it possible to have both? I think so. I
Yeah.
think it starts with getting up earlier and creating some of those foundational habits.
Good. So it really is talking about changing habits is what I'm
Mhm.
hearing.
100%.
Now, in your introduction to your book, you talked about how you love to read self-help books, but you've found many of them just way too, hard to figure out what to do next. Tell us how your book is different.
Well, for one thing, I'll just show you. My book is paper thin. So it's 120 pages and it is tightly packed with, like, you can basically turn to any chapter and look up whatever you're feeling at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So unlike a big book, and I love all of the great self-help books that are out there and on the New York Times bestseller list, but they're 200-300 pages. They're filled with graphs and charts and it's like hard to find a page where you're like, no, I feel anxious right now. I'm about to go into a meeting
Right.
and I need a tool that will calm me down in the next 30 seconds.
Hmm.
And I think my book lets you do that because at 100 and some pages, it's easy to dog ear it and highlight it and fold it through, leave it in your glove box or in your purse, your briefcase.
Mm-hmm.
I have a client who says, I have one by my nightstand, one in my office, one in my car. And because they use it it was intended to be used as an operating manual.
Yeah, I like the word you use, tool. That it's a tool that you can just pick up and use.
It's intended to be a toolkit. The reason I wrote the book is because I have a podcast called The Overthinker's Guide to Joy, which is basically 15-20 minute solo casts about subject du jour, right? It could be about grief, it could be about stress, it could be about healthy habits, it could be about diet, the impact of sugar or alcohol, addiction. It
Mm-hmm.
runs the gamut. It's anything that could affect somebody's everyday life. And then
Okay.
I do interviews with people who I find inspiring, who I have either a personal or a professional relationship with, that ties back to ways in which you can reframe your thoughts and bring more joy in your life. So a number of people kept writing me saying, I love your podcast. I love your podcast. But sometimes I forget which episode I want to hear that same thing again. I wish you would write a book.
Hmm.
So that was sort of the birth of the book, was when the 10th client said to me, I wish there was just a book of all of your tools. I
Hmm.
said, this is the year I'm going to write that book. That's why it shares the same name as the podcast, although it's original material. So it's not pulled from the podcast.
Right.
It's the same themes.
So your podcast is called The Overthinker's Guide to Joy.
Correct.
Okay. And then your book is The Overthinker's Guide to Joy, a handbook for overachievers, people pleasers, and perfectionists. So I'm curious, what do overachievers, people pleasers, and perfectionists have in common?
Well, they tend to be very outward focused, meaning they tend to overthink, people please, and be a perfectionist because they're very concerned about what others think of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that does is it costs a lot of time and often a lot of money. because people are so worried about the product they're putting out. And that could be literally the dinner party they're making, the holiday event that they're sponsoring. It could be how they show up at work, how they show up in their personal relationships, everything. And what it does is it creates so much internal angst. And there's ways to reframe that way of thinking, because usually that kind of behavior comes from some element of childhood trauma, whether it was divorce or death of a parent or a caregiver who had an addiction problem or a temper problem. But there was some trauma, could be big T, little t, that is now showing up as an adult, and often as a young person, but certainly in adulthood, where we're repeating these patterns of needing to please others for fear of either punishment or judgment or something, or rejection. And so that's what they all share in common. They're usually born out of childhood trauma in some way, and they're repetitive patterns that we just start to adopt as the norm in our adult life.
Tell us a little bit about your coaching business. What do you do in your coaching business, and what kind of clients do you have?
So I coach mostly professionals of all walks of life, and I have clients around the world. And I deal with people who feel anxious, who are just feeling either overwhelmed by their personal life or their professional life, or both. They feel like they don't have enough agency to either speak up or speak their truth or follow their passion. Something in their life feels limited. And they come to me to help either build their confidence or their voice, or just find out really what makes them happy, because they're so busy doing, they're not really living. And so we kind of unwind and unpack that. I work only with one-on-one. I don't group coach. I might someday, but I just like the one-on-one model. So it's very much like therapy, but unlike therapy, which is very past focused, coaching is very forward focused. So we're setting goals, or we're problem solving, and we're doing very prescriptive tools to move forward on some subject.
So it really is taking somebody where they are and working on what are they going to do next, or it sounds very present focused.
Very present, very present. Yeah. And I really, I'm a little bit of a detective of what are those limiting beliefs, or what are those habits that are preventing people from feeling the most joy in their life. And it's usually something like it's over something, right? It's either over drinking, overeating, oversleeping, over procrastinating, over something. And when we kind of uncover what that is and the why behind it, it just opens up all new doors, whether that's money or love or weight loss or health. It's like finding the right key to the jail door.
And tell us a little bit about the use of the word joy, or the focus on the concept of joy. Where does that come from, and how is that relevant?
Well, I think a lot of that came from my moving to Maui. And again, I said, moving does not create joy, right? And it doesn't solve problems. But what I noticed was when I moved from Los Angeles to Maui, I had more time and space, because there's less noise, to notice things. Like I saw stars for the first time. I was like, I didn't know there were so many stars. I didn't look up, and I lived in a city that was very well lit. So there was so much ambient light. I think I saw, like 2 stars a night instead of hundreds of stars. I never noticed full moons. I never noticed hummingbirds or all the different varietals of flowers. And just suddenly I realized, well, I think my head was down all the time. I was looking at the cement that I was walking in my high heels, or I had my nose in a script or my face in a screen because I was watching rough cuts all day. And I just wasn't looking around. And so the concept of discovering joy within yourself, but also just by looking outside, was kind of this amazing discovery. And my first podcast before the Overthinker's Guide to Joy was called Joy Hunting. And the idea was just being mindful, right?
What does joy mean to you?
Joy means putting a smile on your face. Joy means having a little tickle in your body. So joy for like a little kid might be an ice cream cone, right? It's a treat. They maybe don't get that every day.
Mm-hmm.
Joy for an adult might be playing golf on a Friday afternoon or taking a walk on a beach with a loved one. But that feeling you get when there's like a little sense of wonder or rediscovery, to me, is joy. So holding a loved one's hand, petting a puppy, having a great night's sleep, and actually being aware of it and grateful for it when you wake up. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd say joy and gratitude are kind of together.
Yes, I was just going to say gratitude, having gratitude just changes your life. I mean, if you just go through life and you don't have gratitude for anything, it really is kind of an empty life. But if you can develop gratitude for what goes on in your life, I know that you can be more joyful. Yeah.
Well, and there's a chapter where I talk about be a joy hunter or a gratitude guru. Like just develop the skill to walk through life. You know, it's an old adage, right? Stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
Hmm.
Like stop what you're doing and sniff something beautiful from nature,
Hmm.
or look up and appreciate the ocean, or look up and see the sky. But the gratitude piece is huge. I noticed that when I first started blogging years ago, before I was a coach, I had a different blog, and I used the word hate a lot. Oh, I hate high heels. Oh, I hate traffic. Oh, I hate.
Hmm.
And today I had a consult where a woman, I won't disclose what her profession was, but she has a very, very, very big job. And she said, I hate my career. I hate my
Hmm.
job. And she's
Hmm.
like, one of the most esteemed in her field and, published and all the things. And I said, let's remove the word hate from your vocabulary
Hmm.
because it has so much negative connotations. And I say that with love, not with judgment. I say it because I was somebody who used that word for emphasis all the time.
Yeah.
And now I
Interesting.
really try not to use that word.
Right. So you've used two words that I want to explore a little bit more. One is habit, and the other is skill.
Mm.
So it seems like this just doesn't come and happen tomorrow. These are habits and skills you have to develop, right?
It can start right now, is the answer.
Hmm.
So you could start a habit this second by going and having a glass of water.
Hmm.
And that, and then reminding yourself to have another glass of water in an hour or two. That's a habit. I mean, it's a habit when it becomes, so it doesn't take any skill to learn to drink water.
Right.
It needs to become a habit.
Right.
The same with movement. Like, people say, oh, well, I don't like the gym. I don't like this. I don't like to work out. I don't like to sweat. Okay, take a walk.
Hmm.
Just go outside and walk. If you have a
Hmm.
driveway, walk up and down your driveway. If you don't, walk around a parking lot. Like,
Hmm.
so it doesn't take much to start the habit.
Hmm.
And I try to make sure that anything I write in the book is not the hardest thing I tell people to do in the book is meditate. And the reason why I say that's the hardest is because that's the hardest for people to adopt. It's
Hmm.
not hard to meditate. It's
Hmm.
just hard to get used to the idea of closing your eyes and being quiet
Hmm.
for 5 minutes.
Hmm. Yeah, let me tell you where I see skill in this, which is I agree with you that a habit's a habit, but to me it's a skill that you develop over time. It's like a muscle. If you want to start lifting weights, you don't start out with 100 pounds, right? You start out with 10 pounds and then 20 pounds and you move your way up, and that's a skill. And I think what you're talking about with gratitude or taking care of yourself, it's a skill. It's a skill in developing the habit and then having that habit really help you over a period of time. And I think that's a skill.
I think you're right.
Okay.
I think learning to develop something that is good for you and turning it into a habit is a skill.
Got it. Good.
Yeah. The word I use in the book all the time, over and over again, is practice,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a term yogis use. They always refer to their yoga as a practice, no matter how advanced they are.
Right.
And I love that because that allows for imperfection, that allows for missed days, that allows for beginners
Mm-hmm.
and for experts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see everything as a practice, and then if you practice it, it becomes a habit. And then once it becomes a habit, I guess to your point, it becomes a skill.
Got it. Good. Jackie, I've been so glad that we've been talking about this today. I love the book. I've read the book, and I highly recommend it to people, especially those who are overthinkers and high achievers and just people who worry too much about what everybody else is thinking. I highly recommend this book. It's
Well,
been
thank
great to have you on the show today, Jackie. Thank you so much.
Jonathan, thank you. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah. So we've been talking with Jackie deCrinis. She wrote the Overthinker's Guide to Joy, a handbook for overachievers, people pleasers, and perfectionists. She's also got a podcast called the Overthinker's Guide to Joy. And you can reach Jackie at JackieDeCrinis.com. That's Jackie, Jackie, and then DE, and then CRINIS, JackieDeCrinis.com. If you can't remember that, I've created a special link called bit.ly/Jackie for Joy. So I hope you visit her website. You can buy her book and benefit from it. Thanks again so much for being with us, Jackie.
Thank you again.
Good. This has been Jonathan Marks with Go to Health. Remember, we'll be back with another show shortly. And as we always say at the end of every show, go to health. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in this week to Go to Health Media. Be sure to join Jonathan Marks and another health expert next time. You can also catch the program on your favorite podcast platform. Until our next show, be sure to visit us on the web at gotohealthmedia.com and elevate your life.